Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vitvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste. Welcome to Mahalila. My name is Maline, and today I'm giving this Introduction to Vedanta class so that you can understand a little bit more about our sharings. To begin with, we have to understand where Vedanta is from. Vedanta comes from the Vedic tradition, which started in India ancient times. The Vedic tradition is based on the four Vedas, which is the body of knowledge that gives rise to what today we know as Hinduism and also yoga. So, to understand a little bit about this Vedas, I like to think of them as a GPS for our human goals. They are a knowledge that it was revealed by the total, the cosmos, to these special yogis that had this ability to see the mantras. That's why in Sanskrit they are called rishis, meaning the ones who are capable of seeing the mantras of the Vedas. The mantras are simply texts in Sanskrit, so all the Vedas are revealed in Sanskrit. I have a teacher that she used to say that the Vedas are these folders that are there in the Google Drive of the universe. And when these yogis made a lot of austerities and they were capable of purifying their minds, they were able to access these folders from this Google Drive of the universe and tap it into this cosmic knowledge and then pass it on through generations in an oral tradition from guru to disciple, from teacher to student. And the Vedas presents four main goals for every Purusha, every human being. The first of them is Artha, the search or the goal of security. We all need shelter, food, and nowadays money in order to survive. So this is our goal when we are pursuing this purushartha, this goal for security. The second one is kama, seeking pleasure. We all want to survive, but we also want to live well. So it's not just about survival, but enjoying life. And these two goals we share with other beings, such as animals. You can see that they also want to live, they want to survive, and they want to live well. They want to enjoy their lives. The third one, though, is specific to the human being because the human being has something very special that we call free will. The third one is called dharma. You might have come across this word dharma as your sacred duty, which is okay, but dharma, understanding that it's just following a life of values, of ethics, and being in harmony with the universe. So, dharma in the Yoga Sutras, for example, is presented as the yamas and niyamas, do's and don'ts of the yogic tradition. Ahimsa, non-violence. So this would be dharma, something to follow. Basically, it's a universal understanding that we all come with. If I don't want something to be done to me, I shouldn't do it to others. So this basic understanding of what is right and wrong is what we call dharma. And then the Vedas add a different dimension to it, explaining a little bit more on specific rules and regulations that you can follow if you are part of the Vedic tradition, if you're a Vedika, for example, or nowadays, most of the Vedic tradition is part of what we call Hinduism as well. But then the Vedas explain there's a fourth main goal, and that's the utmost goal of every human being, which is moksha, liberation. Liberation from what? From what they call samsara. Samsara is this wheel of birth and death, reincarnation, and this life of suffering and misery that we all want to see ourselves away from. But I like a lot what my teacher used to say. It's freedom from the life of becoming something different than what we are. If you've noticed in your life, most likely you're always trying to change something about yourself because deeply within you might have a feeling of inadequacy. It can be in social gatherings, it can be in your work setup, or it could be even in just your life in general. You just do not feel belonging at some times, or sometimes it's just as if you are the problem in the situation and you have to change yourself, or when you speak evil to yourself and you diminish yourself and you hurt yourself in your own mind because you have a very nasty speech about yourself. Your narrative about yourself can be really harmful. We all go through that. We all share that same struggles as humans. But what Vedanta, then it comes Vedanta, will say to us is that we're perfectly accessible, we're perfectly acceptable as we are. The thing is, how? How are we acceptable as we are? And how are we supposed to find permanent happiness and that sense of contentment if, as humans, we go through these polarities of happiness and sorrow throughout our lives? So here comes the study of Vedanta. So remember, I was talking about the Vedas. They are this GPS for all the human goals, and the utmost human goal would be moksha, which is liberation. We all want to be happy, and always. We don't want to suffer. To understand that, we have to tap into a little bit of the misconceptions regarding the yogic path. For example, and thinking that the yogic path is just about meditation and being free of thoughts or just sitting in the sit of the observer. It's a little bit deeper than that. Yoga stems from the Vedic tradition, by the way. So, Vedanta will talk about this last Purushartha, this last human goal. It will talk about liberation from suffering by explaining who we really are. And in order to understand that, I like to bring the first sutra of the Yoga Sutras, Atha Yoga Nushasanam. If you are a yoga teacher, most likely you've heard this sutra before. It says, Atha, now, it starts the study, the teachings of yoga. This word Atha is very important. Now means there was something happening before and there will be something happening after. What is going to happen? What is going to happen after is the study of yoga. But what was happening before was our pursuit towards pleasure, towards security, towards even ethics, dharma. But slowly, the more you start searching for happiness in that which is temporary, which means material things. It can be things, it can be situations, it can be relationships. We're always trying to seek permanent happiness in things that are temporary. When we gain maturity and we understand that, okay, money is not going to bring me happiness. This relationship is not going to bring me happiness. Having more things or new things also won't bring me less happiness. Now what? How do I get this sense of contentment if all those things that I know how to search for happiness or that give me an instant of gratification are not permanent? Because in my experience, I can see clearly that they go away, that they fade over time, that what was new becomes old. Once you gain that level of maturity, your spiritual pursuit starts. That's when most people find yoga, and some lucky ones, such as myself and maybe you, find Vedanta. It's usually in yoga teacher trainings with people that have tapped into the tradition that we find the study of Vedanta. And once you're fished into that, it's just a thread that you're picking up upon because somehow it sounds familiar. It's like you've heard that before, and then the teaching starts to become a clear picture to you. But in order to understand what Vedanta has to offer, has to say, has to reveal to us, we need to have an open and clear, objective mind. Otherwise, the teaching of yoga or Vedanta is not possible. If you're still attached to your likes and dislikes, things that you're pursuing, things that you are pushing away, if you're still attaching to your relationships and to financial situations, your job position, your status in society, it's very hard to come to the study of Vedanta. Because what Vedanta has to tell us is neti, neti, not this, not this. You're not your job. You're not this person that you were in a relationship with. You're not the roles that you play in society. You're not even this physical body. You're not your thoughts, your mind. You're not your soul, even, which we call jiva in Sanskrit. You are just pure consciousness appearing as all these names and forms. And in order to understand this concept that is going to free you from all the suffering that you're experiencing, you need to go through a teaching that has a methodology, a way of preparing our minds, taking us from where we are towards that liberation, moksha, jnana, knowledge, whatever you want to call it. So I want to talk a little bit about the methodology right now. First of all, you need to find a teacher. Self-knowledge in Vedanta is not the mainstream self-knowledge. Let's understand our psychology. Let's understand our personality, our minds. Self-knowledge in Vedanta is the knowledge of self that is free of limitations, that is consciousness, existence. For you to understand that, you have to go to a teacher that, one, he has studied with a teacher, with a teacher, with a teacher that is part of a tradition of knowledge that carries the key to understand the words of the Vedas. Remember, the Vedas are knowledge that was revealed to us. It's not something that was taught by a human mind. That's why we don't say that Vedanta is a philosophy, because it is a means of knowledge that is apaurushaya, not purusha, not an individual. No one thought that. No philosopher came about with Advaita Vedanta. Vedanta was a knowledge that the rishis, the sages, were able to tap into that Google Drive of the universe and download the information, passing it on into the tradition. So you want to be connected with someone that was part of this unbroken lineage that holds the key to decode the understanding of Vedanta, of the texts of the Vedas. And this teacher is not speaking its mind. This teacher is bringing this knowledge that was passed on based on the teachings of the Vedas. And so this is the first thing. You have to listen to the teaching. This is called Shravanam. One thing about Shravanam that I love that my teacher Swami Dayananda Ji he used to say is Shravanam is Shruti, that which was heard. Another name for the Vedas is Shruti, that which was heard. It's about hearing well. It's not about the person that is communicating, because the knowledge that is being communicated is that which was heard previously by the rishis. So the main thing is to receive the knowledge without bringing our personality into it, bringing our subjectivity into it. It's purely listening and trying to have an open mind to understand, not taking our own conclusions, which is very hard for the Western mind. Because in here, we do promote the ego and the understanding and the digestion of information, bringing all our background around it. In the Eastern, that's not it. The more I can abstain from the more I can abstain myself from tainting the knowledge, that which is being passed to me, more clear and pure that knowledge is going to be, and more it's going to make sense afterwards. That's why the second stage of this methodology is mananam. Mananam means to think about this knowledge, ask your questions, make yourself clear. If you have doubts, go to your teacher. Understand, re-listen again and again. And once you grasp that understanding, then nididhyasanam, contemplation on that knowledge, to remove any habitual errors of that previous understanding of self. If before I thought I was this personality that was limited, that had these relationships, that had all these problems, now I understand that I'm pure consciousness, but I have to convert my emotional being into understanding this new version of myself. That's what Nididhyasana is for. So Shravanam, listening to the teaching, Mananam, asking your questions, taking out all your doubts, and then Nididhyasanam, contemplating upon that teaching. Then knowledge will happen. So the more you expose yourself to the teaching of Vedanta, more clear that understanding of yourself as free of limitations will appear, will manifest in your life. So here, understanding that this is the methodology, now I want to talk a little bit more about the text Tattvabodha and the other texts that are part of the Vedas, the Vedic tradition. So I say text, but as a matter of fact, it's actually just mantras that were passed down. At some point, they became texts, but they were not texts originally. They just were written, and there are a bunch of stories around when the Vedas were written, by whom they were written, but they were compiled by Veda Vyasa, the compiler of the Vedas, and they are divided into four main Vedas. In the end of the Vedas, there is Vedanta. So the Karma Kanda, the Purva Bhaga, the first part of the Vedas is going to talk about security, pleasure, and dharma. The end portion of the Vedas, Vedanta, will talk about moksha, liberation. So this is what we're interested in right now. All right. Vedanta, another name for Vedanta is Upanishads. So I'm sure you've heard before, because on the internet you can find a lot of information on Upanishads, but we have thousands of Upanishads. We know 10 that are more prominent because we had a very, very special teacher called Adi Shankaracharya, who did a bunch of commentaries, bhashyans, on these 10 Upanishads. And those are the ones that we study in Vedanta nowadays. Ken Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, anyways, 10. Then we have what we call Bhagavad Gita, and this I'm sure you've heard before. Bhagavad Gita is one of the most commented texts because not only Adi Shankaracharya made a comment on that, also other darshanas, other ways of seeing the Vedas also did their comments. And therefore, it became very popular, especially by the Hare Krishna community that has Bhagavad Gita as it is. When we study Bhagavad Gita in Vedanta, it's different than their way of seeing the Gita. Nonetheless, the teaching of the Gita is the teaching of the Upanishads, the teaching of the Vedas, which is revealing something that is completely new, that is not based on our perception, because the Vedas are Shabda Pramanan, they are a means of knowledge. If other things can reveal what a means of knowledge is revealing, then it's not valid anymore. For example, I cannot use my ears to see colors. I have to use my eyes. To understand about the self, my experience is that I am this person up to my skin. Apart from that is different from me, which means there is me and there's something different from me, duality. This is our experience. Vedanta is telling you that this is just an appearance. What is real is non duality. We're not going to enter into that. This is for the text, and that's why you have to have an open mind. You have to have time of exposure, and you have to go to a teacher that has understood the knowledge and has received the knowledge from a tradition. It's not about our mental speculations. Okay, coming back. And then to understand the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, we have introductory classes, no, texts such as Tattvabodha. It is said that Tattvabodha was written by Adi Shankaracharya, and it takes the main concepts that are going to appear in the Upanishads and also in the Bhagavad Gita, making it more accessible for the student to approach those concepts. Therefore, if you're a beginner into Vedanta, if it's the first time that you're going to study something, I would say you should start with Tattvabodha, just like most people start, just like myself. I started with this text, and I studied this with like different teachers from the same tradition about like 4 or 5 times, and I taught this text about 2 times now, and I'm coming to the third and fourth right now. It is important to have an open mind because sometimes, especially for the West, and even for me, I had a hard time to swallow that I had to be strict to the tradition. And I went into so much mental indigestion, trying to bring so much other inputs while I was living in India, receiving this traditional knowledge, that I'm telling you kindly, be kind to your mind and allow yourself to go through one thing at a time. I know that it's beautiful nowadays and very like amazing multitasking and bringing different concepts and looking smart, but in Vedanta, it's about stripping away everything that you are not, including your conclusions about yourself, about the world, about God, about the universe. So, a little bit on what Tattvabodha is going to tap into. We are going to have 8 classes, and it's a fairly short text, but with a lot of dense information. We're going to understand how this world came about, what is Vedanta, what is the self, how is liberation possible through knowledge, and about the law of karma. All those things are going to be explained in a very simple and tangible way. And it's a beautiful way to simply expose yourself to something new if you've never heard of Vedanta. And if you have and you're already studying for a while, tapping into the basics, coming back to the beginning is always a way of nididhyasana, of contemplation. Tattvabodha is a very special text to me. It brought me to India, and it 3 times, and the third time I stayed there for 3 years. And I am just so grateful for this tradition, for opening up my eyes and answering questions that I didn't even know I had. But when I listened to the answers, so much clear and just beauty came into my life. So, thank you for listening to this introduction. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. This video will be available on YouTube and also on our link, our bio on Instagram, and my own Instagram on Mahalila, and my name, Maline. We always start any class with a prayer. to remove obstacles, to prepare our minds to receive the knowledge. And we always end the class with a prayer because we have received the knowledge and assimilated it. So right now, I'll just end with a mantra, a peace prayer in Sanskrit to conclude our session today. So thank you so much for spending time with me. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate. Just send below or on my Instagram or info@mahalila.yoga, and I'll be happy to reply. Okay, so let's gather our hands in front of our hearts, pausing for a moment, taking in all that knowledge and information. May receive and assimilate it. Let there be peace in our hearts. Namaste. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Go Brahmanebhyah Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjaniyaha Prithivi Sasya Shalini Desho Yangsho Bharahitaha Brahmana santu nirbhayaha sarve bhavantu sukinaha sarve santu niramayaha sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.